Well, always a pleasure to welcome Stephen Ellis to the program, our daily Faceoff prospect analyst. And today we are looking ahead. It's way ahead. And I know, it's early in the year for the NHL teams, but also early in the year for scouting departments and things of that nature. So let's
Steven's already scouting the class of 2028. What are you talking about?
I know it's hardly too early.
You're not wrong.
Oh, I know that was not a joke.
I know. Yeah, we weren't kidding.
But let's talk about the 2025 class, Stephen. I'll start with just sort of a basic level of what kind of class is this? Strong, weak? Is it heavy in one regard, light in another? Where do you come out? What's the overview of this 2025 group?
So I would say it's not as strong as, 23 or 24, but there's so much variety. I think when you're looking at drafts in recent years, last year, no real good goaltenders, no real players out of Quebec. You look at 2023, not a lot of high-end defense. This year, like the top 10 might be split between forwards and defensemen. We might get 2 goaltenders in the first round. There's a lot of representation out of the Quebec League this year, which, I'm singling them out because you look at how well the OHL, the WHL, and even the USHL have drafted in the first round the last couple of years. And then you go and watch the queue, and it's like you get some scouts who say, like, we don't want to even bother drafting out of here because there's not a ton of high-end talent. This year, that's really not the case. So I think with this team or with this draft, it's you're lacking a superstar. You don't have that Celebrini. You don't have that, Connor Bedard. I do think James Haggins is going to be really good. I think Porter Marton's going to be really good, but we're not going to get the same star power. But it's going to be about as well-rounded of a draft that we've seen in recent years.
So yeah, let's start at the top. I mean, you mentioned James Haggins, and he's someone that I guess is probably fair to say is the consensus number one, but probably not locked down, right?
No, it's not at all. And, talking to some scouts at a recent Brampton Steelheads game that were going out there and saying, like, the gap between these two players of James Haggins and Porter Marton is a lot closer than some might have thought would be the case heading into the season. And Marton ended up scoring a goal 5 seconds after I was told this. So I thought that timing was hilarious. I guess when you're looking at it, if you want to simplify it, James Haggins is like Jack Hughes and Porter Marton is like Matt Tkachuk. And I think that's a really exciting battle going on there. Haggins is more of this calculated, smart two-way player. Porter Marton is afraid of nobody, a really good goal scorer there, a guy I expect to get well over 50 goals this year. So different playing styles, but they both have their values. I think watching them up close at the U18 World Championship back in April, Haggins went out there and scored the most points ever in the tournament history. And I think Porter Marton's like second or third now. Him and Gavin McKenna were so good together. I think we're if right now, if we look at how well Porter Marton's doing, and it's like Brampton's offense lives and dies by him. If he starts to fall off, I think we're talking about this being for sure James Haggins thing. But Haggins is also playing college against older competition, so it's a bit and fewer games. So you look at the stats, obviously not super comparable. I think the one thing though with Marton is if he continues to dominate at the level that he has this year, we're talking about a really close fight heading into June.
So who's a player that you have a little bit lower down your list right now that you're already really high on heading into the draft season?
Well, Adam Bennick out of the Youngstown Phantoms is a guy, actually, I just wrote about him earlier today, putting up some good points. He's 5'7". I think that's the thing that's going to be talked about a lot, that he's really small. But what really became clear watching him at now multiple Holinkas, the U18s, the U17s, this might be one of these young, small guys that actually can make it work in the NHL, kind of like a Cole Caulfield, kind of like an Alex DeBrincat. And it's because he's so creative. He rarely loses one-on-one battles. Watch him go out there and playing some really big defensemen at the Holinka. It seemed like it wasn't an issue with him. Now, going up against a guy like, a 6'4" defenseman in this year's draft compared to Radko Gudas is a completely different situation. But what I think we're talking about here is someone who's got that creative sense in him that a lot of scouts do believe. It's just that talent will translate over, and he's a good skater, and he isn't actually afraid of the physical element. Yeah, he's 5'7", 161 pounds, but that hasn't slowed him down yet. Another guy that I'm really excited about, though, is Brady Marton out of the Sioux Greyhounds. Last year suffered an injury early, didn't get to play a lot, but then you're looking at these numbers here, 10 points. We saw him at the Holinka, and he was one of the best players, especially in that medal round where Gavin McKenna seemed to fall asleep. When it comes to Brady Marton, he's got so much skill, but he's got so much tenacity out there. He wants to hit everybody. He wants to make an impact. And I think that's a guy that I have him in my first round already. A lot of people don't have him anywhere near that. But I think this is a guy that people are going to be talking about in a few months and saying, whoa, okay, like this guy could do everything. He hits, he scores, he defends, and he's got some of the most pure skill of anybody in this draft. Well, I watched him play at the AAA level where he just absolutely took over. No one could contend with him, and he was a big reason why Waterloo did as well as he did, as well as they did, without having many other scoring options. It was basically the Brady Martin show. So keep an eye on him.
Last one I got for you is Ivan Rabkin. At one point in terms of the group of Russian prospects, he was talked about in the same breath as Michkov and Demidov and guys like that. Then he just fell off the face of the earth. What happened?
Yeah, so this is a guy that was getting some rave reviews last year at 58 points in 44 games in the MHL, like numbers that were comparable to Michkov and Demidov the last couple of years. And for a guy that knows how to score goals, him not scoring goals this year has been kind of a surprise. He got to the point where he was actually a healthy scratch in the Russian Junior League, which is very, very rare for a player of his caliber. And now the Muskegon Lumberjacks of the USHL went out and said that he's going to be joining the team. They did admit there's going to be some hurdles. It could be a few weeks before he gets over there. He does have some commitments. It sounds like Dynamo Moscow wants him to play in the Russian VHL, which is kind of like the AHL there, see what he could do there. And maybe he's able to stick in Russia and they say, you know what? Yep, we're going to keep him here because he is under contract till 2027. So it is going to be a bit, there's that little hurdle to get over. But I think a lot of talent, it's just putting it together every night seems to be an issue where he can be described as being way too lazy, not putting that 200-foot effort in there. And he's got no goals to show for. So definitely some struggles. He has fallen in most people's draft boards, but I think, he's got the talent to make it work if he puts in that effort. Maybe that happens in the USHL. We'll see.
Our daily face-off prospect analyst, Stephen Ellis. Stephen, always a pleasure, man. Chat next week.
Thanks so much.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.